Hello and welcome to Beachao, and as you can see today with me I have this, which is the brand new Kia Seltos. Now this car is a little confusing to me and I am a little confused because of a few decisions that have been made about this car and its overall positioning. That said though, what we are going to do is we're going to have a look at the car from the outside, we're going to have a look at the car from the inside, and there's going to be a very exclusive feature where my friend has thankfully agreed to put this car on a dyno to see the actual horsepower this car puts on the ground. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this car on the dyno, which is the diesel, then we're going to go put the petrol car on the dyno, and finally we're going to take this car out on the road and see how it performs in the real world. To start off with, this car has this completely brand new front fascia with this new grille. Now this grille has sat well with some people and some people absolutely don't like it. What is your opinion about it? I want you guys to tell me down in the comment section. That said though, over here this headlight unit is also a completely brand new section where you have this part and these three things which are the DRLs, and your actual headlight is over here, which is your low beam as well as high beam. One more thing which I noticed is this side indicator. It kind of looks like a fang from a cartoon movie. This is your camera over here, this is your ADAS radar, then you have parking sensors over here, and also over here and here on the side as well. This car has 360-degree kind of parking sensors where you cover almost till here with the sensors, and the same goes with the back as well. Then again, now this is also something which is controversial, at least to me. This car also comes with these kind of aero wheel sort of designs, which I am not a big fan of, but what do you think? Again, let me know down in the comment section. Something very unique and something which kind of I find it very odd are these neon colored brake discs. Do they go with the car in any way? Again, I don't think so. Then over here what you also see is that this car now has slightly better ground clearance. It's got 200 mm of ground clearance compared to 190 which was there in the outgoing car, and you also get cameras over here as well for your 360-degree view. You also get these flush door handles which are like this when the car is unlocked, and if I take the key out and I lock this car, then these things will completely be flush. Moving on to the back, a completely reworked rear end as well. It's not just a facelift. This car is actually a completely different, it's called the K3 platform, where they've actually extended the wheelbase of the car, which means now you have a lot more space in the boot as well as the rear seats to make a lot more legroom for people, which was actually kind of the complaint what people used to have before with the Seltos. Let's go on the inside. Let's see what has changed over there. Now, when you open the driver's door, you also get these seats which move out of your way to make you getting inside the car a lot more comfortable. You have a nice big panoramic sunroof. The best part that I like about this interior are these physical buttons. God, I cannot tell you how much I've been missing these physical buttons in cars. You also have these physical buttons for setting your air conditioning, which are super handy. Like, I have driven this car already and I can already tell you this is such a good break away from all the touchscreen and the touch panels that usually come in modern day cars. What you also find over here are 3 USB. These are both high powered, high watt USB, and this is one for data. There are 3 USBs over here in the front, which is nice, but I don't know the purpose of it. I don't understand, because generally there are mostly 2 people sitting in the front who have 2 devices, but they've given 1 extra just in case. Also, I want to turn the car on to the accessory mode, and now I want to show you how these screens are. There are 3 different screens over here now. There is this screen which addresses your infotainment, and the best part I like about it is it's really fluid. It's very responsive. It doesn't lag at all, and the contrast is also kind of nice where you can literally see it no matter what time of day it is. And then you have this screen in the center which takes care of your air conditioning controls. This is also a touch screen where if you press on this button, then you will get an extended version of whatever you want to see and how you want to control your air and your temperature. And this over here will control the flow of air like this. This controls the sink. Now then there is this screen over here in the center. This is the screen which is in front of the driver. This will tell you your RPM, your speed, your ADAS functions, your lane keeping, your fuel and other things. Now overall, these 3 screens are really crisp. They are very high quality. They are very responsive to the touch. The only one gripe I have is that when you're actually sitting over here and driving, the steering sort of blocks your air conditioning screen. It's not really a big deal, but you have to, kind of peek onto the side every time to have a look look at what is the temperature that you have set for yourself. But overall, I think this entire layout is really good. It's very handy, it's very tactile, and I'm really happy that Kia has gone back to physical buttons, at least for the main things which you mostly need when you are driving. I mean, if you are on my side on this, then you will know how irritating it is, especially to adjust things like your volume and your air conditioning when you're driving, when you're using a touch button or a touch interface. It's annoying to the next level, in my opinion. Anyways, moving forward, what you also do have are soft touch materials both on the dashboard as well as on the doors, which kind of give it a nice premium feel on the inside. Now, these seats are these dual color seats, which is 2 or 3 different combinations where you get these. It kind of looks cool. At the same time, the seats are actually quite comfortable, and they also have these perforated headrests. What these do is kind of, when it's a hot summer day, you actually get ventilation through here, so you don't feel very hot behind your head or your neck. So that is really nice. Another gripe I have with this car is that while they have given a central armrest, this doesn't move. This is fixed. You really can't use it in certain positions when you are setting up your steering and your seat. Apart from that, you have this sliding thing over here to sort of hide your cup holders. You have a nice chunky gear lever in the front. This is where you can keep your phone to charge it wirelessly, and you have a pretty decent sized glove box, which also is not cooled. This is what I say when I say that this car is a little confusing to me, because they have given features, they have done a lot in terms of upgrading how it looks on the inside. But that said, though, there are still a few kind of essential or a few features that I think they really missed out, and I don't understand the reason why. Like, for example, it should have a cooled glove box, it should have a cooled compartment over here. Even on the top of the line variants, you don't get that. And also, while the seats have this dual color look and this dual tone finish going on, the overall dashboard is fully black, and the materials that are used on this are more or less of the same texture. Doesn't give it a lot of character. It feels very blandish. It doesn't feel very characterful. That said, however, the good parts again are that there are more physical buttons on your wheel as well. Oh, one more thing before we go at the back is that these seats are 10-way power adjustable. They also have 2 memory settings where you can save not just your seat settings but also your mirror settings for both the mirror adjustment as well as the reverse setting on the mirror. So that is also something very nice. Both these front seats are also ventilated. However, even if you get the top of the line variant, only this seat will be powered. This seat will still be manual. Time to go to the back. Now, these rear seats are actually kind of nice and comfortable. They don't have like a lot of bucketing for the seat back, which makes them good for short to medium distances. I don't think they'll be overly comfortable for really long distances. Anyways, with the whole way this car is set up, it feels more like a 2+2 car, where it's predominantly driven by younger people who are basically married or unmarried but don't have like a very large family and don't use these rear seats a lot. The second reason why I say that is because even the doors over here are all hard and scratchy plastic. Unlike the front, which has soft materials on it, this is all hard and scratchy plastic. Under thigh support is actually quite good. It's not that bad as well. You also get AC vents over here at the back. Another thing is that the USB ports are over here in the seat. This is a very weird decision. I don't know why it's done, because problem with this is if somebody is sitting behind and is passing you things, he might hit this and break the USB cable completely off. What also can happen is if you are moving around, this cable can break. That said, though, you have USB ports over here, and also if you have USB ports on the seats, that means that if the USB ports go wrong, you'll probably have to, I don't know, maybe change the seat, or if you have to open the seat basically and get them fixed by servicing the entire seat. That is that. Secondly, then you have a nice cup holder over here with an armrest. This is actually nice and comfortable, although they have improved the legroom over here at the back. Like, the headroom is quite good, but the legroom is, I mean, it's still okay. I think definitely there are cars in the competition which have more legroom as well as more headroom. One more thing which I think that is a really big miss for this new Seltos is that this is the top of the line variant, and even in the top of the line variant, you don't get a powered tailgate. This is a fully manual tailgate which you have to open and close. I mean, not a big deal, but it's a nice feature to have, especially when you're buying the absolute top of the line variant. Don't you think so? Let me know down in the comments. One thing which I missed showing you guys is that if you look down over here, it's actually got a hidden wiper right behind the spoiler. It's very nicely integrated and tucked in over there, so it doesn't come in your vision all the time. That's about it for this car. Now what I'm gonna do is take this car onto the dyno and see how much horsepower this diesel variant makes. Then we'll take it out for a drive, get the petrol in and drive that and put that on the dyno as well. Alright, so while we are setting the dyno up, what we ideally, if it's a good engine and a good powertrain, we should expect around 20% power loss. That's kind of normal. So let's say if it's a 116 horsepower car from factory at the crank, it should make close to about 92, 93 horsepower at the wheel. And if that number is there, then well, then the powertrain is pretty decently efficient. So that's what we're going to find out now. All right, fans are on. We're good to go. So the tests are in, and what we have over here is the diesel Seltos puts down 108 horsepower and 236.9 Newton meters of torque. Now that is actually a really good number, and I'll tell you why. So basically the difference between the numbers that are quoted, which are crank horsepower numbers, and the numbers that we get on the dyno are wheel horsepower numbers. Now as I mentioned before, there's generally a 10 to 15% power loss in the drivetrain. But if you calculate on these numbers, then the actual power loss in the drivetrain is about 8%, which is actually surprisingly good because we were expecting a lot more power loss. So what that basically tells us is that this powertrain is actually quite efficient. Now let's head on to the petrol car. Alright, now the final numbers for the petrol car is also out over here. What I have with me is a wheel horsepower number of 160 horsepower and a torque of 265 Newton meters of torque. Now again, if I add an 8% power loss on top of this is actually a little bit more surprising than the diesel. What we have over here is two consistent runs where we've gotten about 155 and 156 horsepower. Now, if you add that 8% on top of that, which is your drivetrain power loss, you will actually get a lot more horsepower. Now, what the company claims is that the petrol variant gives 160 horsepower, and if I minus the 8% powertrain loss, then we are at 147 horsepower. Now, if I go the other way around and use that 156 horsepower as my base number, then we have 156 plus 8%. That comes to a total horsepower output of 168.5. So almost 169 horsepower is actually producing technically on the crank, which is a lot more considering that the 160 number which the company has provided is in PS, which means that is actually 157 horsepower. So that means that this car is actually on the dyno in real world producing almost 10 more horsepower than what the company has claimed. Pretty good. Anyways, now let's take this car out for a drive and see how it feels. Alright, so that was actually quite interesting. By the way, huge thanks to Speedworks who helped out with this. Those boys are super awesome. Sid, thank you always. And if you guys are in Bangalore and if you want to get your car tested out and see how much horsepower it is actually putting down, well, Speedworks is the place where you need to come. That said though, now time it is to get back to the Seltos, the diesel in specific. The first thing that I realized about driving this car is that the steering is actually super soft and it's super easy to maneuver this car in the city. And the second most important thing, which I feel is actually the most important thing when you are talking about a diesel car, is the diesel engine. Lot of cars, the diesel engine is a little unrefined, it's a little clattery. That's actually not the case over here. It is, in fact, I'm quite surprised by how well insulated the interior is from that diesel engine. You don't hear any of that clatteriness, And with diesel, especially when you're at lower RPMs, when you're picking up from like first gear and you're just giving those revs, that's where it makes the maximum amount of noise. In this, that thing is completely isolated. Like I literally cannot hear, apart from a little bit of the push from the diesel engine, I cannot hear anything else. Apart from that, the diesel engine is mated to a automatic gearbox. It is not the quickest in terms of its response. When you go on the throttle, it takes its own sweet time to shift down and give you the power. And the pedal shifters also are pretty decent, but not like really on point. They still take a little time to engage gear, to drop down a gear and push you through. I mean, if I hold the gear, let's say right now I'm holding second gear, and if I'm even pushing it on second gear to like right now 3000 RPM, a little more, maybe 4000 RPM, let's put it on third, 2500, 2700, 3000, 3500 RPM, and it's still not extremely loud. It's not annoyingly loud. It's actually a very well insulated engine is what you get over here with this car. This entire transmission and engine setup is done in a way where it is the most smoothest, it's the most linear. It will not give you a lot of jerkiness. It will not be very abrupt when shifting up and down. In fact, most of the times you don't even realize that the transmission has gone into the next gear or is downshifted. It's pretty seamless. It works in the background without actually ever making you feel what it's doing. The other good thing which I liked about this car is how well the suspensions have been tuned for Indian roads. I took this car over some really bad patches of road as well as of course good patches of road, and on flat stretches of road this thing is absolutely smooth. It is very leveled, and when you're going over bad patches of road, this thing actually just eats it all up. For most people, the damping in this car is good enough where they will actually not realize the difference when going over bad or broken patches of road. I was not able to take this car out on a high-speed run on a highway because instead we gave you a dyno, so we had to compromise somewhere because of the time, the limited time we have. And we decided that a dyno would probably be a better option to show you what kind of actual performance or what kind of actual horsepower it creates. I will not be able to tell you how stable it feels at high speeds, like at highway speeds of 120 plus kilometers per hour. Understanding by the previous Seltos though, what I definitely notice is that the suspensions are a lot less bumpy in this car. Like the previous Seltos, they felt very bumpy, very uneven and very unpolished. That's actually not the case with this generation, where they've actually evened it out. It feels a lot more leveled. It handles all sorts of bad roads, potholes, broken roads and rutty surfaces very evenly, where you don't have to worry about getting that shock or getting that jerk when you're over here on the inside. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to acceleration, it is nothing great to write home about. That said, I mean, it's pretty normal. For the city, this car is absolutely perfect. It's absolutely fine. Although I definitely feel on the highway, when you want to perform a quick overtake, it might leave a little bit more to be desired. Probably the petrol version would be a lot better. So let's head on, let's get the petrol version and get back to you on how that performs. Alright, now we are in the petrol car, and first things first is that both these cars, I'm literally driving halfway off the road, and man, both of these cars have some excellent pair of suspensions when it comes to comfort. The damping on both of them is amazing. In fact, it feels a little better in the petrol because it's got lesser weight, so it doesn't have to compensate so much for the compression and the damping. And this feels a lot more lighter, a lot more agile also while driving. The second thing which is specific to this particular car, which is the petrol, is that this car actually feels quite peppy to drive. That said though, surprisingly, it's the petrol where the engine makes more sound, it makes more noise, which can be heard on the inside compared to the diesel. The diesel Seltos is actually very well insulated. I mean, the engine is supremely insulated from the interior, while at the same time the petrol, you do hear a little bit of that engine note on the inside. But if you ask me, that is not a problem because I like hearing a petrol engine. Any day, it is not a problem with me. I mean, unnecessarily, if it is too loud, then of course nobody likes it. But then that nice rumble of the petrol engine is something that I don't mind at all. So when you put this car on sport mode, the throttle response actually is really nice. The car feels really eager to actually jump onto acceleration and give you that nice pull. It is actually pretty decently fast. Now, I don't know the actual 0 to 100 numbers. Probably Evo or somebody is going to do a 0 to 100 test soon, so you'll probably find out in their vlog or in their video. But what I can tell you for sure is that this car actually feels pretty decently fast. Like in terms of its acceleration, I'm currently doing 50 kilometers per hour, foot down. Takes a little time there when the turbo kicks in, and I've got instant drive. The good part also is that this petrol engine, the 1.5 liter turbo petrol, has been mated to a 7-speed DSG. I'd not say that it's the fastest DSG, but it's still pretty reasonably fast and actually gets up to really impressive amounts of speed really fast. That said though, there's one thing, there's one thing which I've noticed with this gearbox, the 7-speed DSG, is that it does feel a little lungy when you're taking off from first gear and when you are in traffic situations where your car is between second and first and third gear. When you accelerate, it does give you that little bit of jerk and little bit of lunginess before actually moving ahead. So absolute smoothness is somewhere missing with this 7-speed DSG, at least in this engine and transmission combination in this car. But once things get going, it is actually quite a nice seamless gearbox. Again, I'm doing 28 kilometers per hour, foot down, 50, 70, 80, 90. I don't think if I have this car with me on a day-to-day basis, I will complain about its performance. Also, one more thing I want to say is that both of these engines have a pretty decent scope of modifications. The petrol engine, which puts out 116 PS, let's say about 115 horsepower, that engine can be tuned to a place where it is doing about 150 to 160 horsepower with a stage 2 tune. It's basically just a downpipe, a remap, and if you want, you can put a intercooler, but a air filter is something which is mandatory. You can get the car up to 150 to 160 horsepower and close to about 270 to 300 Newton meters of torque, which is actually really impressive. When it comes to this petrol engine, this 160 horsepower with a stage 2 remap can easily go to about 185 to 190 horsepower safely, and the torque will probably go up to about 260, 250 Nm, which is again pretty respectable. Now, those are the kind of numbers which will make this car really fun. It will make this car really peppy to drive, considering that it is already feeling quite peppy to drive. Apart from that, in terms of the suspensions, I feel that the suspensions on the petrol are slightly more pliant. They're slightly better damped compared to the diesel, because the diesel, having that extra weight on top, makes the suspensions a little more unsettled. That said though, both of these cars are not set for handling. You can definitely have decent amount of fun with them on the highway, but none of these cars are, set up for going full apex to apex in corners, because there's quite a lot of body roll. Apart from that, the petrol engine, extremely good in terms of how peppy it is, and the diesel engine is surprisingly quiet. I mean, I did not expect a diesel engine to be this quiet and have no vibrations coming on the inside. It's actually a very refined car. Well, that's it. That's what we have with the new petrol as well as diesel Seltos. I hope I have brought you a unique angle and something new and interesting to watch in this video, and I hope you liked it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to see you in the next one. Till then, ciao.